In 7.7c, we're going to solve quadratic equations when they are in standard form by using the zero product property. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is check that the equation is in standard form. Remember, that's going from highest degree to lowest, and it does have to equal 0. Okay, if there is a greatest common factor, we're going to factor it out. If it's possible to factor the trinomial, we will do that, and then at the end, we're going to solve the equation using the zero product property. So let's go ahead and look at the first one. Let's see. It's highest degree to lowest. It does equal 0, which means it's in standard form already. So I'm going to go ahead and check and see if they have a greatest common factor. Okay, the x squared doesn't have a coefficient, so I'm not going to check the coefficients. But this is x squared, this is 4x, and this is 21. The 21 does not have an x, so there is no greatest common factor. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and factor the trinomial. Remember, when we factor, we're putting it in the parentheses. So I want it to look like this, equals 0. Because this is x to the second, this is going to be x times x. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and look at the last term, the negative 21, and think, what do I multiply to get that equals negative 21? That will add up to positive 4. Let's see, what could I do? I could do 7 times 3, but one of them has to be negative, and I need it to add up to positive 4. So let's try to make the smaller number negative. 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. 7 minus 3 is positive 4. Okay, so my numbers must be positive 7 and minus 3. Okay, now I factored it. Now that I factored it, I'm going to solve using the zero product property, which tells me that either this equals 0 or this equals 0. So if x plus 7 equals 0, I get x equals negative 7 as my first possible answer. And then if I check the next factor and solve it, okay, now I get x equals 3 as my second answer. Because this is degree 2 for the polynomial, I normally get 2 answers. Okay, let me go ahead and look at b. I'm going to do the same steps for b. Okay, let's see. X squared plus 11x plus 24. That's standard form. It does equal 0. If so, let me see if there's a common factor. There's no number x squared x, no x. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and factor the trinomial. Again, this is x to the second, so it must be x times x. Okay, I'm going to think of factors of 24. And then I'm going to make sure they add up to 11. So for 24, I could do 6 times 4. 6 plus 4 is 10. How about 12 times 2? 12 plus 2 is 14. 8 times 3. 8 plus 3 is 11. Okay, there it is. Positive 8, positive 3. Okay, once I have it factored, I'm going to use the zero product property to solve. Okay, so I got x equals negative 8 or x equals negative 3 as my two possible answers. And because this was x to the second or degree 2, I was expecting 2 answers. Okay, let's check the next ones. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for these. This is standard form. It's highest degree to lowest, and it does equal 0, which is perfect. Now, is there a common factor between x squared and 3x? Actually, there is. They both have an x in common. So let me take out the x. Okay, so x times something to get x squared, I need another x minus, to get 3x, x times 3 is 3x. Okay, and then it equals 0. Let's see, this looks good. There's nothing else to factor, so I'm going to go ahead and solve it using the zero product property. The first answer is x equals 0. And then if I solve this second factor, x minus 3 equals 0. I'll get my second answer. And remember, because this is degree 2, I am expecting to get 2 answers. Okay, next one, part B, let's check it. It will be similar. Is it in standard form? Highest degree to lowest equals 0. It's in standard form. Let's check for a common factor. Let's see, between 6 and 15, I can take out a 3. And then x squared and x, I can take out an x. Okay, now if I take out 3x, 3 times 2 is 6. X times x is x to the second. 3 times 5 is 15. And then 3x, 5x, they have enough x's. Okay, this looks good. It's in factored form. I'm going to go ahead and solve it. So the first one is 3x equals 0. If I divide by 3, 0 divided by 3 is still 0. So my first answer is x equals 0. Now for my second answer, let me solve this. Okay, let's see, I got x equals -5/2, and I got x equals 0. I got 2 answers. This was degree 2, so that seems very reasonable to me. Let's do one more example, A and B. I'm going to do the same steps though. Okay, first standard form, highest degree to lowest, it does equal 0. Okay, let me check for a common factor first. Let's see, x to the third, x to the second, 10x. They all have an x, so I'm going to take out the x, which is going to make this x to the second. 7x plus 10 equals 0. Okay, now I like the x out here. This is nice. But if I look at the x squared minus 7x plus 10, I can factor that trinomial more, so I'm going to keep going. Because this is x to the second, I'm going to go ahead and assume the first term is x times x. Okay, let's look and see what we times to get 10. I could do 5 times 2. 5 plus 2 is 7, but this is a minus 7, so let me make this minus minus. Okay, now this looks fully factored. I'm going to go ahead and solve it. So my first answer is x equals 0. Okay, let me solve the next one. X minus 5 equals 0. So I got x equals 0, x equals 5, and x equals 2. Now I got 3 answers, which is a little different. But if I go back to the original problem, this is degree 3, because the highest exponent is a 3, so getting 3 answers is very reasonable. And I should assume most of the time I will do that. Okay, last one. It's going to be similar. Okay, is it in standard form? Highest degree to lowest equals 0. Okay, first check for common factor. X to the third, x to the second, and x. So let's take out an x. This will bring it down to x to the second minus 5x minus 14 equals 0. Okay, this x outside is great, but let me keep factoring the trinomial. Because it's still degree 2, I know I can take it farther. This is x times x. Okay, I'm going to look at -14 and think about what do I times to get -14. Twice 7 times 2. Okay, now 1 has to be negative though. And it has to add up to -5. So how about -7 plus 2? That is -5. So it must be -7 and +2. Now that it's in factored form, I can use the zero product property. So x equals 0. X equals 7. Okay, and x equals -2. Okay, I ended up with 3 answers again. If I go back to the beginning, this was degree 3, so getting degree answers, 3 answers makes sense to me. Okay, go ahead and try the practice and then check your answers with those posted on the calendar.